very first book haul. And before we get started, I'd like to say that book haul is more like a reading list because it's going to be introducing what my first book hauls are going to be and also other books that I'm going to start reading. So let's move on to the first book. And for our first book, we've got The Martian. So The Martian is actually going to be my very first book talk. It will be coming out shortly soon after this video. And also, the film is coming out this upcoming Thursday, which will be October 2nd, 2015. And it's starring Matt Damon. I will also be doing a movie review on that coming up. But for those of you who do not know what The Martian is about, it's basically about this astronaut who goes up to Mars, and then all of a sudden, he gets trapped there. His crew thinks he's dead, and they leave him behind. So basically, he has to learn how to survive on Mars using his botanist and engineering skills. Pretty legit. It's actually surprisingly funny. I highly recommend you check this book out. For our next book, we've got The Mistborn. So, The Mistborn is a fantasy. It's basically about this fantasy world where darkness prevailed like 1,000 years ago, and so there's this tyrant that's been living, basically, he's like immortal. And so he's ruling over everything. And so our main protagonist is like, well, what if we don't? What if we, like, fight back? And so he is like this thief kind of dude, and so he tries to take on the Lord Ruler through heist. Super cool, super interesting, and I highly recommend this book. For our next book, we've got The Throne of Glass. So if you guys read a lot of books, you guys are like, have you not read this book yet? Which I have not read this book yet. It is a 6-part series, and the 4th book just released. It's called The Queen of Shadows. But for those of you who read fantasy, we all know that most fantasy books have maps. And I just love this aspect about books, and fantasy books specifically, because you can like track the progress of the character. So I just thought that'd be a little interesting, because Mistborn also has a map, and I just like love maps. Okay, it's basically about this assassin who's in prison, and she was like a top-notch assassin. She would like kick butt. And so the protagonist has been trapped in, or is thrown in prison. She has an opportunity to get out. So the kingdom's hosting this like tournament, I would say, that all the assassins and all warriors and stuff basically have to compete with each other and become the grand champion, the king's grand champion. And so if she wins this tournament, she basically gains her freedom. But there's also other aspects within it that, you know, there's like a bigger plot, but, you know, it's kind of like the Hunger Games. So this is like a Hunger Games set in fantasy. It's like really, really cool. So what I'm talking about is this Red Queen. So I don't exactly know what genre it is because I looked through the book. Guess what? I don't see a map anywhere. But it does feel kind of like a fantasy mixes with a dystopian-like thing. But for those of you who do not know what this book is about, it's basically about this world where red bloods, basically normal people like me, because we got red blood, regular people are segregated from silver bloods. So silver bloods basically have like super cool powers. They're like, pow. And so this red blood, our protagonist, basically gets a job to work in like the Silver Palace. So basically, she discovers she has powers, and the Silver Bloods, I believe, know this. And so basically, they like try to hide it, the fact that she has red blood, and so they're like, hey, blah 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 blah. And so, what I'm saying is that they're trying to hide that she has powers, even if she knows it. So they proclaim her like lost princess of whatever, and they marry her to a prince. And so then she like figures out what's going on, and then she tries to like work with the Red Rebellion or whatever. It sounds really interesting, and it obviously is popular because guess what, guys? I got it at Target. Isn't that so interesting? I got it at Target. But yeah, this is a very popular book. It is a trilogy. The second book was announced to be released. I believe it's coming out in 2016. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it and read it and get on it. Sounds very awesome and interesting. So on to the next book. Guys, we are actually getting a break from all these fantasies, and this book is called Avalon. So if you guys don't know what Avalon is about, it's a sci-fi. So this sci-fi basically takes place in this universe surrounding Jeth. Jeth is a kid, and he is with a band of teenage mercenaries, and what they do is they go around town, they steal Metatech. Metatech is this like high-tech tech, in this universe that basically allows you to travel faster than the speed of light. Selling Meditech on the black market is a lot of money. And so in this universe, crime bosses, the government, it's all like corruption. And so Jeff is basically trying to get out of there with his sister. And so I believe he's trying to buy Avalon, which is his parents' previous ship. And so he's trying to get that, and he's trying to get the heck out of there, or this like sector, I believe. This book does have a sequel, that being Polaris. Polaris is the sequel, and I believe this is only a duo, and there is a prequel, but it's called Proximity. But the duo is basically what is in the series. The reason why I got this is because it looked really cool. Like the cover's just really cool. Because I have not read this book yet. So I can't wait to get into both of these books. And now we're going to move on to the next book. Yay! So for our next book, we don't have a sci-fi, nor do we have a fantasy. We've got a book. This book reminded me a lot of the Percy Jackson series. I don't know, it just gave off this kind of vibe. But if you guys don't know what this is about, it's basically about this teenager who acquires abilities, like electrical abilities, and there's other people who have abilities as well. And so this group of teenagers band together and basically trying to find more. But the reason why is because there are randomly people mysteriously disappearing, and because they are being hunted. Yeah, being hunted. So this book series is, I believe, to be a 7-book part series, and book 5 just released not that long ago. This book is more like, I believe, younger ages, like for kids up to teenagers, because it's just the style of writing. However, if you read the Percy Jackson series, you know it's not just for kids, because it's interesting, it's funny. So I can't wait to get into this book and tell you guys what I think about it. On to the next book. I'm so excited. You guys want to know why I'm so excited? Because we've got another fantasy. You guys want to know why I know it's another fantasy? Because we have got a map. That's right, another map, meaning we've got another fantasy. This fantasy is called the Dinosaur Lords. So the reason why I picked this book up is because right here it says it's like a cross between Jurassic Park and Game of Thrones. How cool is that? That's like a really cool concept. So the world this is set in, it's kind of like this Renaissance-y 14th century type period that mixes with dinosaurs. So you've got this element of like the wild dinosaurs out in the wild. But then all of a sudden these knights learn how to tame the dinosaurs, and it's like their primary means of warfare. So it actually sounds really interesting, and I know this book supposedly has more like political type jazz going on. It's really gory, apparently. The age recommendation is like 16 and up. So I highly recommend that you follow the age recommendation. Guys, for the next book, we've got Mara Dyer, or The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. So this is a part of a trilogy, being the Mara Dyer trilogy. This is the first book. I have not read this book. So it's kind of like this half horror, half like intrigue, mystery type book from my knowledge. And so The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, it's like this Mara Dyer, she doesn't, I don't think that's her real name. She like wakes up in a hospital, doesn't remember anything. All she knows is like 3 of her closest friends just like got bamboozled and killed and all that crazy whatnot. Which, again, I'm not sure if they were killed or if it was like murder or anything, but all I know is that there's like more that meets to the eye of this like mysterious happening. But she lost her memory, and now she's like haunted by all this stuff, and she's like doesn't know whether or not she actually had a part in playing in their deaths, which who knows. So basically, I think they like up and jump out of the state or that they were in. I think it was like New York, and they moved to Florida. Her entire family does. And so then she meets Noah Shaw, and that's where it starts. Before I move on to the next book, let me just say, everyone talks about Noah Shaw. If you read books, everyone talks about Noah Shaw. Stop it. Looking at you guys. Okay guys, for the next book we've got The Young World. Okay, so This book, when I was just like at Barnes & Noble, I was just meandering around, just walking, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I was like just reading it. So, okay, so it's about teenagers, only teenagers. All the adults basically got wiped out by a disease. And it's in a post-apocalyptic world. Who hasn't thought of that before? But actually, I don't know. I don't think anybody has, because we've got a trilogy about it. Everything was just wiped out with a disease, and so the teenagers are just left to fend for themselves. So you got these different tribes, all this different, political meanderings among teenagers. A group of teenagers stumble upon a potential cure, and they basically go chase it down, moving through the country of the United States of America. On to the next book. Okay guys, we've got the Book of a Lifetime. You guys want to know why I know it's a Book of a Lifetime? Because it's another fantasy. And you guys want to know why I know it's another fantasy? Because we've got another map. Another map. So, to let you guys know what this book is called, it is called The Ember and the Ashes. So if you guys don't know what this book is about, it's basically about this empire that rules over the world. It's called the Martian Empire, which was inspired off of ancient Rome, according to the author. And basically it's in this setting where protagonist, she's a girl, and her brother basically gets taken away and sent to execution. So the rebellion against the empire basically is like, we will help him out if you go into the Imperial Academy, or I'm pretty sure it's the Imperial Academy, and be a spy. And so she does it. And so that's where she meets the other protagonist, Elias, and that's where their destinies intertwine, and thus proceeds with the rest of this fantasy epic adventure. On to the next book. And now for our last books. Before we get started in these books, I'd like to say that Star Wars Episode 7 is coming up, and I will be doing a lot of content on that coming up in December. So did I just mention Star Wars? Because I've got Star Wars books. Okay, so, to explain why I'm doing Star Wars books is because Disney, LucasArts, is revamping the books into leading the storyline into what's going on the book, episode number 7. So, if you guys read the Thrawn series or any of those other Star Wars series, those are mainly all void. Well, not all void. A lot of them are still canon-ish in a way. Like the Thrawn series, it's only like the Shattered Empire's concept is still there, but like Thrawn and all that whatnot is gone. So, to move on, we've got The Lost Stars. So Star Wars Lost Stars is kind of like this Legend Tilly's type thing where he goes into the Imperial Academy and he's like, I think I'm going to join the rebellion. And it takes place on a world, and this is actually for teenagers. This was written specifically for teenagers, and this is by the author, Claudia Gray. I'm really excited to get into this. It is a standalone, which there are hints into the Episode 7 Star Wars, so I will talk about these right when I get done with the book, and throw my opinions out there. And for the second book, we've got Star Wars Aftermath. This is literally the aftermath of Episode 6, so this is probably going to be the most important book for all of those fanboys out there, because they were like, what happens after? So the aftermath will probably give a lot more hints comparatively to this, because this is set between Episode 3 and Episode 4, I believe, maybe? To my knowledge, this is Episode 3, Episode 4, this is right after Episode 6. So this right here is basically what happens legit right after. This will lead to the circumstances of what Episode 7 is, so this will probably be the most important for a lot of people, but this still has a potential of introducing new characters. There are also other Star Wars books, but it's more like the adventure of Han Solo and Chewbacca, adventures of Luke Skywalker, adventures of Princess Leia. I will leave a link down in the description linking to the Journey to the Star Wars Force Awakens book series, but I thought that these would probably be the more interesting and most important ones. Alright, I'll see you guys in just a second. Hey guys, and that wraps up our very first book haul. Don't forget, the first book talk will be coming out very shortly after this video is posted. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this channel with your friends. And my social media links are down in the description below, and we will see you next time. Goodbye!